It is currently 11:20 am and my battery is at 100%. After 3 years of use, my battery is obviously not like day one, but it is miles better than my previous Windows laptop after 3 years. The point of today's video is to see how the M1 is holding up after all this time, especially now that people are debating whether to buy this or the Macbook Neo. Not only that, but I also want to make a point that you do not need the latest and greatest MacBook in order to get working. This spec is the 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, which I know are not a lot, but hear me out. This Mac was a gift to me from my dad back in university, and my goal was to get a trustworthy laptop without completely breaking the bank. So I got the cheapest version, and my goal was to work and one day afford a better one on my own. So hopefully you will see me with a newer model at some point in the near future. Throughout this video, I'm going to use this MacBook for browsing, coding and editing to test it as thoroughly as possible and see how it performs. Also, I'm not going to charge it until the battery dies to see how long it can go. Enough talking, let's get started with some coding. Right now, I'm forcing my girlfriend to play around with the UI of my web app to find any unintuitive parts of the platform. I want to make sure it is easy to use for anyone and not just me who designed it and know my way around. The testing was cut short though because of a bug that happened due to a refactoring I was doing. Today I am working on the frontend that I have ignored for a long time simply because I do not like it as much. Even though I had watched some tutorials on React, I still did not feel confident enough on a larger scale. And that is a problem with many people being stuck in tutorial hell copying the code to their computer without ever doing the work for themselves. That is where the sponsor of today's video comes in. Scrimba allows you to start coding right in your browser without you having to install anything. They have over 80 courses on different web development topics. Some completely free, others require a subscription, but they're all taught by seasoned devs. The subscription includes access to complete career paths on frontend, backend, AI, and full-stack development that is going to take you from complete zero to being able to build projects all on your own and become knowledgeable to a level that is actually hireable. Personally, I have seen many platforms similar to Scrimba, but again, it was the same methodology of learn, copy, do a generic app, and you're good to go. What separates Scrimba from all the other coding platforms is their super unique teaching technology. Let me show you. Here you have the lesson playing, but you also have the code in front of you at the same time, and the instructor is giving you hints as you go. So it really feels like you kinda got a tutor next to you. Now, this means that it's also super easy to get coding. You don't have to install anything when you're starting out. And another great thing about Scrimba is that they offer a lot of free courses, so you can play around and see if you enjoy their teaching process before you actually commit to anything, which is something that I highly appreciate, letting new users test freely a third of the courses without asking for a single dollar. Now, if you're either just starting your career or looking to retrain and you want to learn how to code but don't know where to start, you have to give Scrimba a shot. I think it is a great platform for anyone at the beginning stages of their journey, and they need the guidance to get started before everything starts making sense. I have linked some of my favorite courses in the description so you can take a look for yourself, and a huge shout out to Scrimba for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. I have arrived at my favorite coffee spot at 3 PM and the battery is looking very promising at 35%. Now I'm about to get started on some editing, and this is where this machine struggles the most. That is to be expected, of course, since it's an 8GB MacBook, so I always edit at 1080p resolution and then I export to 4K. Let's see how long it can last while I'm editing the video that you're watching right now. Small note, the brightness has been at 100% the entire day, and as of now I have no issue with the visibility, but if it's under direct sunlight then it gets a little tricky. So it is currently 4 PM, I have been editing for an hour and the battery is at 17%, so a bit less than 20% in an hour. Hopefully I can go past 5 PM, so let's see. As you guys saw, the MacBook died at 5 PM, so after 6 hours of screen time. That is not bad at all considering I was coding with an external monitor, then editing for 2 hours, and having peak brightness during all of that until the last 30 minutes. This proves that this laptop can basically last a 9 to 5 without charging, and if that's not enough for you, then I don't know what to tell you. By the way, it never once got heated during the editing. Mind you, I did not do anything crazy, but this laptop works for most people. I will now let it charge, I will work out in the meantime, and then get back to you for my final thoughts. If I would get a MacBook Neo over this, or if I would buy the same spec again in 2026.
Shit look way different on top of mezzanines, you know? I'm glad to be up here. High crime rates in these $1,000,000 houses. Seen a judge make grown men cry like they childish. Only way is up, we just trying to keep a balance. Bad was saving money, so we often borrow dollars. Fucking up at school, cause being bad was hella cool. Sunday morning going to church, playing games in the pews. When it's summertime, we at Loma out the pool. Talking to the girl is trying to do what it do. Look, thinking back on my adolescence and count my blessings.
Okay, enough with the real world use. Now let's run some tests and see how the laptop actually performs. First, we have the Geekbench single core and multi-core results. So as you can see, we have 2200 for the single core score and 1827 for the multi-core score. And let's compare that to the laptop when it was new. Okay, so for the single core test, the score was 2347, so it's almost 150 less, which is to be expected, but honestly not much of a difference. And the multi-core was 8342, and at the moment it is 8127. So that's a loss of almost 200, which again is to be expected, and it really does not make a huge difference. Unfortunately, the audio from yesterday got corrupted, so I'm going to be refilming everything that you see from this point onwards. I think we left off at the benchmarks of the Macbook Air, so now let's see the results of a new Macbook Neo and compare them. So these results are not live because I don't have a Macbook Neo, but I assume they are the official results from the site. And on a single core score, we see 3500, and for the multi-core we see 8600. So that means that the MacBook Neo performs better on everyday tasks. Because as we can see, the single core score, which reflects that, is much higher, almost 30 to 35% higher, but the multi-core score is not that much higher. That is why, personally, I would not upgrade to the MacBook Neo, because I mostly care about the multi-core. For example, a MacBook M4 Air that has a single core of 3700, which again is not much more than the Neo, has a multi-core result of 14,000, so almost double, which is where I would see the most benefits in editing and heavy tasks. Now, if you ask me personally what I dislike after all these years about the M1, the only thing I can point to is the storage. 256 gigs are not enough if you plan on using a Mac for more than 3 to 4 years. Considering that updates will take up half of that space, then you also have your apps and your developer tools, and that leaves you with 20 to 30 gigs to play around with. For example, every time I have to edit a video, I then have to delete all the footage in order to edit the new one. So if I could go back, I would maybe get the 512 gigs version to last me a year or two longer without this issue. But in all fairness, if you plan on editing, you will probably end up getting an external SSD anyway. At the end of the day, it is a preference, and it is hard to recommend an old machine over a brand new one. Having said all that, I tried to make a case for both MacBooks with 3 selling points for one over the other. Why would I get the Neo over the Air? First of all, and more importantly for me, it has a better chip. Even though the Neo uses the A18 Pro chip, which is an iPhone 16 Pro chip, it still outperforms the Macbook M1 chip. And like we saw before, it is almost 35% better on everyday tasks. Second point is it has a brighter screen. The Neo's display hits 500 nits, whereas the M1 Air maxes out at 400 nits. This makes it much easier to use outdoors or in bright room. Last but not least, since it was launched in 2026, it will support updates for much longer than the M1 that was released in 2020. Now let's make a case for the Air over the Neo. First of all, it has better display colors. The M1 Air supports the P3 white color gamut and True Tone, whereas the Neo is limited to sRGB. So if you're doing color accurate photo or video editing, the M1 Air is the winner. Second point, and also very important, is the backlit keyboard. The M1 Air has a backlit keyboard, whereas the base model Neo does not, which is a deal breaker if you often work in the dark or you don't want to pay the extra amount to upgrade it. Third, and also very important point, is the Pro connectivity. The M1 Air features Thunderbolt USB 4 ports. The Neo lacks Thunderbolt, meaning the Air is much better for high-speed external SSDs, professional docks, and high-resolution monitors. So make of that what you will and choose accordingly. Now, in case you're wondering what laptop I would buy in 2026, I think it would probably be the MacBook M4 Air. And that is why, in my opinion, the Air can satisfy all my needs. I do not think that my tasks are that heavy that I need the Pro. Also, it is cheaper and I would prefer to outsource that money for more storage, either internal or maybe external. And honestly, maybe more equipment that would benefit me more than the Pro model over the Air, if that makes sense. And also, with the MacBook Pro, I don't want to get the 14-inch, but I also don't want to get the 16-inch because it is also very expensive. So the Air with the 15-inch seems like the perfect balance to me, and I would opt for that. Now, thank you so much for watching today's video. I had so much fun making it, so please subscribe so we can get to 800 subscribers by the end of this month. Drop me a like if you enjoyed it and tell me what you want to see next.